We're going to look
Is that the
at
corrected
using
one?
curves and
That's
an
actually
adjustment
the
layer. I'm
final.
going to go ahead and delete this.
Yeah.
Using curves and then how do
I'm getting myself confused.
Don't ask me what I did because I have no idea.
I delete that? These keyboards are funky because I don't have the right.
Make sure I don't say.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we have an image,
Edited folder, you
and
want
if we
to
did a
update
normal
the
curves
saved
adjustment,
ones.
which is
You
Apple
save
M,
the folder
we're going to
off,
do
so
a
you still
global
have
edit
curve
on the
adjustment.
image. So
Okay.
it's just meaning it's going to affect everything.
Okay.
We can do the same thing with an adjustment layer. The benefit of that is that it's not destructive, so you have your base image still there. Whereas when you do a curves adjustment, the Apple M, and you hit OK, then you can undo it, but if you go down the line and you do 20 different things, you can't easily remove that. So this is basically stacking that curves layer on top of your image. We can use this little tool to change, like maybe we want to do a little bit of that and pull this
final might end up being
down.
redundant, but what that's going to be,
Let's start with that, and then maybe we want to burn like the fence in, right?
That's what I was
So our global edit looks maybe something like that. It looks a little oversaturated here, which we can deal with later. But let's leave that like that and make another curves layer. Oh, so the first consequence that's awesome is you can change your opacity here later too.
Oh, okay.
And so you can always do too much and then kind of back it off a little bit.
I'm with you so far.
Cool. And so when we go and let's do this again and let's take our fence down, you also get different modes here. So you can use like luminosity, which will change the brightness without changing it'll change the luminosity without changing the color saturation, which means as you darken it, it looks desaturated because those are, anyway, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Shouldn't be putting this in the recording because it's just confusing. But you can see that there's a lot of different things you could do with that. Maybe let's pull it down too much just so we see what can happen here. And now our bird is obviously too dark. And so this white layer means that this edit is being applied to the whole image. If we switch this to black, and we can do this with the paint bucket tool, if we switch our X's flip here, and we switch to black, then we paint not the picture, but we paint the mask to black, which means don't let that adjustment show through.
Right.
We can also do that with Apple I. That will flip from,
Okay.
it'll just do an invert.
Okay.
And so if we do it like this and we go to the brush, and again we switch back to white because we want to paint white into our black mask, we want to let that adjustment layer show through, whereas right now it's not being
Right.
shown anywhere. We make our brush bigger. The flow is how quickly
Right.
the paint or whatever comes out,
Right.
and I would usually turn that down to like 7 or something, because here you saw it was basically
Right.
all the way right away. Now I have to kind of work to push it in there, so it's a little more natural. If we go, we can do this the other way. In this case, I think we just want the bird, and so we can start from black and subtract rather than from nothing and add. I'm talking kind of fast.
No,
I'm
I
sorry.
get it. I'm
Okay.
with you, so if I don't, I'll stop you.
Cool. Our computer is tired, so let's paint it to. Oh shoot. Well, I'm just gonna get a big brush and just the paint bucket tool is getting funny. We want to go to.
We're going to have to get Ivar. What do they call them? GT.
GTF.
A what, Chris?
An IGTF.
Yeah. I don't
Okay,
know.
so-
I'm not up on the lingo, man.
Whatever.
You like IDUC and...
Right,
IDUC.
IDUC and
IGTF.
IDUC is good.
Yeah, IDUC.
IDUC is really good.
Hey,
So this is
I actually
really
officially
slow.
got signed into
But
.net.
okay, screw it. I'm just gonna start over.
Oh, I hate this many objects. I know.
If anyone ever watches this recording, I'm very sorry about this moment right here. But what we're trying to do is we can't use the paint bucket because it's not all one color, and so it's not just gonna fill the whole thing,
Right.
or something like that. I don't know.
We would be.
I just start saying words.
I might have killed it.
I might have killed it. This is brilliant. But anyway, you can do the same thing that we did, but the opposite,
Right.
where you start
Just-
with
and just
with
do
it
the
all
bird.
dark, and then just the thing that's going to make it
One
look
of the
weird
frustrating
is
things
if you do
about
too
us-
much,
Right.
it's going to be hard to avoid getting a little white
Around him.
ghost.
Then it would be, yeah.
And that's kind of a tell
Halo.
of too much. Yeah, exactly, a halo.
Okay.
It's funny, I would.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
look at that.
Woo.
Look at that. We are back to nothing, which is weird because I didn't try to delete both, but I am pretty quick, so actually, let's turn that off. Let's do our global edit. If you're clever, you can like name these so you
Yeah.
can tell. I've had some pictures that have had as many as like 8 or something.
Someone didn't believe you.
So we're gonna give a little bit of that, and pull a little bit of this, and then we're gonna go back here, pull this down, too much, and we're gonna zoom in. Spacebar will let you pan on a photo, which
Okay.
is super handy. If you hold this down, you can move around.
Nice.
Apple plus and minus, square brackets or change brush size. I did this like 3 times a day for
I was gonna
3
say,
years.
it's like a second nature to you,
so,
obviously. Or maybe first nature.
it's I think
It's what you do in your sleep at night, right?
Well, I just, you do it for a long time, and this computer is really not very nice. Okay, so I'm going to turn, if I do this, it's like
Right.
very
Woo.
quick. Yeah. So we're going to turn our flow down to like, let's do like 6. And our hardness is at 0, so we've got a nice feather. We're going to make our brush a little small. We're just going to start going like this. And then if you do backslash, red is showing you your mask,
Okay.
so you can kind of get a feel for what you're actually doing, the visual of it. You're gonna have trouble, like this is gonna look weird unless
Yeah.
you do this too, because it's gonna be a weird amount of darkness.
Right.
Yeah, and then toggle it on and off, and
Well, in that
like,
case, you might want to.
And see where you want it to be.
yeah, and just see if it looks weird.
Yeah.
I think I want this to be a little bit higher. Usually somewhere less than
Yeah.
15 is good. Just because you don't want to be sitting there for an hour
Right,
like
like,
scrubbing it in, but it also will
I've
look
done that.
better if it's a little, yeah, see, that's not going to work,
Yeah.
even though it should, because we're going to get this really nasty thing. With the way the brush size is, you can get different brush,
I
like,
did an internship at the legislature in Boise, Idaho back in the day.
you can get different brushes, but sometimes it's easier to go out and then flip it and come back in
And then, yeah.
and do like,
Yeah.
it's still going to look funny because it's so dark right there behind it, but we can get a little bit more like that.
Glass on all sides, and a single pane glass.
You sometimes won't see the haloing until you zoom out,
Yeah.
I was like pinned to it. I couldn't even roll over in the middle of the night.
but
And to get every morning, I just have to.
so
sit there
that
and
looks a
look at
little,
it.
it looks a little cartoonish, I think.
Yeah.
Like it's a little bit much, but
Make it as fast as I
we can do
could.
like a little, croppy crop too. And that's not what I
How
want.
did you make the grid thing come from?
The crop tool instead of the marquee tool or whatever.
Okay.
And we should be able to give it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a way to
Oh, I see. The
give
rule
it a
of thirds.
ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way to give it a ratio, but yeah. So this is a pretty massive edit.
Yeah.
We could go and tweak this, and we could also, if we don't want to do that, like if you had an actual curve on it,
Yeah.
you can just take the opacity down, and that's going to scale it linearly with what you did. So maybe
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah,
is
that
nice.
looks actually really good. I like it.
Some kids with autism.
It's good enough, right?
Right. So
Okay.
I don't know. That's roughly how I would approach that. If you
Okay.
really wanted to get into it, you could maybe burn this a little more, or start playing with different like overlay styles. Although I like for a newspaper, I wouldn't really change that
every
too much
photo, I'm gonna be
because
in front of the computer for like hours now.
you know I really don't do
Well,
much. I really don't do much local editing anymore. Like you do a lot. I do. I have a bunch of presets in Camera Raw that are like different starting points, and then I'll drag the parametric curve slider thing around a little bit. And then maybe check like global contrast and black point and white point, but
Sorry.
It's just,
It's
I
wild.
think you just went over
But
my head.
He's been over
That
my
was
head for
beautiful.
like
well,
5
well,
hours.
so-
I'm just
My
saying,
head sound.
like, if you merge this down, right, Apple Shift E will flatten,
Right.
then you can do Apple L, and we can go, I always do this last, and just go check, where's my,
You will all
There we
be
go.
Yeah.
Forgiven if you don't know.
and
Yeah,
just
black
go
and
make
white.
sure,
Yeah.
and
You
go
are
do this.
a
And
serious propeller head. You will be the best.
I'm selling my iPad, by
Oh,
the
you
way.
are?
Yeah, dude, I
You
don't
don't
use
like
it.
it? Really?
I just don't use it. I went to Salt Lake City for a week, and I had it, and it was charged. I'd never pull it out because I was either on my phone or wanted to edit photos on my laptop. And I was like, it's good for Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
but I have a laptop too, so it's like
Yeah, I know.
$500 for Netflix. Yeah.
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 I
So
wanna-
It's hard to decide which one to use.
At the risk
Okay, I'm gonna
of
stop this.
interrupting